This is the Night Wolf howling at you, and today we're just going to take a quick look at the G.I. Joe Classified Series Snow C.A.T vehicle with Farley Frostbite Stewart action figure, doing kind of an update on this Haslab project. We've got about 23 days left, meaning that this is about halfway through the allotted time to fund, and we are not even funded yet. Currently it is saying we have 7,155 backers. That is not good. When you consider like the first couple of G.I. Joe Haslabs funded within like the first day and a half. And I think even the Rattler did it within a couple days, right? If I remember correctly. It's been a while. It looks like people are not quite as excited about the Snow C.A.T as they have been previous ones. You know, maybe bring this to the forefront of people's attention again. And point out, like, this actually does look pretty cool. Is it too expensive? I mean, it's a Haslab. They're always too expensive when you get right down to it. But let's talk really quickly about the project and what things might be part of the issue here. Now, I've mentioned this on other people's videos talking about this, but I don't think I've ever mentioned it on my own videos. But I do think part of the problem is, now that we've gotten 2 Haslabs in hand and the third one coming in, I think part of the problem might just be that people now realize exactly how much room these things take up. There is a lot of real estate underneath these vehicles when you get them. Like, I got 2 HISS tanks and I got 2 Dragonfly helicopters. I've only got one of each on display because I don't have room to put the other ones as much as I'd like to. It's going to be really interesting with the Rattlers when they come in, since I got 3 of those like a dumbass. But I do think that plays a big part of it. Like with the smaller vehicles like the Trouble Bubble, even the Cobra Claw coming out, the Ram Cycle, the ATV. Those are all small enough where you can have multiple ones and display them really easy in your, displays, for lack of, better phrasing. But the large-scale Haslabs here, like the HISS tank, the Snow C.A.T here, and the Dragonfly, that's a lot more difficult to deal with, right? Now, again, I'm going to have to figure out where I'm going to put the Rattler when it comes in. And I got something, I think one of the Rattlers I ordered is actually shipped, or getting ready to ship, now that I think about it. But that's besides the point. I mean, I do have a plan for where to put it. I just have to get the shelving that I want to get first, which also means I need to catch up on all my bills again. But that's a whole nother story. So that's one of my theories, is that it's just people now know exactly how much room these things take up. So whereupon maybe previously somebody ordered 2, 3, 4 maybe of like the HISS tank and even the Dragonfly and the Rattler. People are probably like, I think maybe I'm just going to do 1 on the Snow C.A.T this time. That's kind of where I'm at, right? I just did 1 and I did back it. And I just backed it the 1 time. I mean, I'm kind of thinking about getting a second one just because I've done that with the other ones. But still, I'm not sure. The thing is, I do know that there's a good chance these things will sell for a lot more on the secondary market. Probably should have checked to see how that was going on the secondary market. One of the things I've heard people complaining about is actually the kitchenette on here. Like, why did you guys bother with that? I think one channel suggested that that's just a pre-tool area for doing, like, what is it, the Havoc 2.0 or something? So that they've got that slot there to put some equipment. Oh, something just fell in one of the other rooms. I think the ghost is active. But aside from that, that's only one of the issues. Like, honestly, that probably didn't cost a hell of a lot to put in there, so I don't think it's a big deal. Like, removing it's probably not going to change the price much. These are the things, though, that I think a lot of people are complaining about. You've got the Winter Lady J, which honestly, as far as the unlockables go, these kind of things make more sense to me with something like this than, when you gave us actual figures, like the 2 Night Force figures that came with the Dragonfly. Because those are 2 figures that should have come out on their own in the main line. The idea that getting some of the figures that should be mainline through the Haslab, like, I get that when you have the drivers for the vehicles as part of it, that's fine, that makes sense too. This is the character that came with the Snow C.A.T originally, fine, that makes sense. Giving us, say, other winter characters, while that would make sense, it's also kind of annoying. Giving us a brand new figure that didn't exist previously, however, I think this makes more sense, because you're giving us the Winter Lady J and the Winter Flint to go with this. And so a new variation on old figures, that's, I think, what I was trying to say, and did a poor job of doing it. But a new variation on older figures to go with the Haslab projects, that makes sense, rather than figures that previously existed in the earlier lines. It's kind of like how one of my big complaints years ago that got me stopping with G.I. Joe for a long time, when they were doing the 4-inch figures, which I still think is one of the better lines that they did, was when I believe it was both Zorana and then Jinx had their mainline figures as San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, as well as alternate variation, where if I could have gotten the mainline figures in the main line, I would have picked them up and I would have been happy. I mean, yeah, I would have been a little bit complaining about not getting the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, but at least I still would have had the initial characters. When they did that and I couldn't get my hands on them for a reasonable price, I had stopped collecting the 4-inch line altogether at that point. Now, occasionally I will pick up something here and there nowadays again, but it's not like it was before, you know what I mean? But that being said, that's why I think that this Lady Jane Flint are a good idea. Other people do like this Bivouac, I think is how it's supposed to be pronounced. Battle Station. As far as a tier goes, I think it's okay. It's not the greatest, but it is something unique. Like, it is funny looking at it here because only the cloth tent part is in, like, winter colors. Like, none of the other equipment is in any kind of winter camouflage type of thing, which seems kind of stupid. And I believe it was Viper Island had pointed out that if you're anybody who spent any time in area like winter climates that are like cold all the time, a shovel is one of the last things you would have because they're useless there, and which is true. Like, once the ground is frozen, it's almost impossible to use a shovel on them. An ice pick, on the other hand, or pickaxe, yeah. I just wanted to give you my main reason for why I think it's not going as well as what other people have said. Besides the last complaint being simply that some people just didn't want the Snow C.A.T, I think it was a good choice. And I do think that while a lot of people were expecting a tank, either the Bat or the Mauler, I do kind of suspect that part of the reason why Hasbro did not put a tank out as the Haslab has to do with Ramen Toys putting out their tank instead. Because that's like a one-on-one comparison. If you might remember, when Hasbro put out their Marvel Ghost Rider car with Robbie there, it didn't do well at all. And around the same time, the guys at Ramen Toy said, we'll do you one better. And they gave us, basically the same car. You could buy the add-ons for it to make it into the Ghost Rider car. And they did it for like half the price. So I don't think Hasbro wanted to put out a, $350 tank when you could compare it to like the $200 tank from Ramen Toys. Because a lot of people, like, as much as the electronic lights and sounds are kind of cool, these things are still meant mostly for adults. And let's be perfectly honest, most adults aren't going to be using those features in their displays. Unless they're sitting there taking pictures and stuff, which at that point it would be cool to have. But as far as my main display goes, I never have the lights on the Hiss or the Dragonfly. It's pointless. You're just going to run the battery out at best, right? So that's why I think we ended up with a Snow C.A.T instead of the either one of the tanks. Mobat, not Bat. I also just wanted to mention too that they've kind of cheaped out on the blast effects. They're giving us like 2 blast effects, and we have literally 6 missiles for all intents and purposes in this vehicle that should have them. If you think that part of the reason why the Snow C.A.T isn't doing so well is my theory that people just now know how much room they take up and aren't ordering multiples like they did previously, please feel free to leave a like. And if you enjoyed my nonsense, please feel free to subscribe. I would certainly appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Peace and love.